What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the VSO Gun Channel. Thanks for joining us here today. Today's video is another one for our new crowd. And I understand that those of you that are not new to shooting or not new to firearms may find some of these ones a little bit basic, but I think there's something in this one for everybody. Today we're talking about how to shoot your pistol better, specifically in the context of somebody who just bought their first handgun and is really trying to work their way through how to operate this thing. And for that, I have 5 tips to help you shoot your handgun better. Before we get started, there's a lot of mass hysteria going on in the country right now, and one of my friends, Johnny, sent me this excellent shirt that I just absolutely had to showcase. Link in the description box down below. What we commonly refer to as pistols are legally defined as handguns, and that definition has a bunch of things in it, as you would expect from legalese, but one of the major provisions is that the firearm is capable of being operated with a single hand. Even though it's capable of being operated with a single hand, my first tip to you is to put both hands on the gun. You're just going to be much more effective at shooting this gun with both hands than you would if you had used a single hand. So unless you're otherwise disabled or trying to push yourself to operate the gun with one hand for a specific purpose, be it training or whatever, try to get both hands on the gun. To do that, it's really simple. Take the gun, put it in your dominant hand, whatever one that is, and then you can see that there's a space carved out here, and that is just the right shape for your second hand. Number 2 is I want your hand as close to the bore axis as you can get it. And a lot of people, especially new shooters, will grip the gun like this because they're afraid of the sharp bits that are right there at the end, and it's not unreasonable to respect moving parts. There's no problem with that, absolutely. However, I want your hand as close to that as we can get it, because what that does is it reduces the distance between your hand and the bore axis. And the bore axis is the center line of the gun for all of our new people, where all the bang bang stuff happens. And we want our hand as close to that controlled explosion, which sounds a little bit counterintuitive. We want it as close to it as possible, because if we, for instance, do this, then we've created distance and therefore torque. When the gun goes off, the greater this distance, the more torque on your hand. And 1, it's uncomfortable. 2, it looks sloppy. And 3, the most important one, is that this gun, and most semi-automatic pistols for that matter, rely on that energy to operate. When the gun is creating a lot of torque on your hand, it is inefficiently operating, and it is dissipating a lot of the energy that it would have used to operate the gun into that inefficient action, and therefore it may cause reliability issues, and that's not something that we want if we need to use the gun for any reasonable purpose. You can tell that something's important in a video when somebody spends a lot of time on it, especially if they approach it from multiple different angles. Thus far, we've been talking about grip. The grip is the interface between the human element and the mechanical element, and it's really important. And number 3 also addresses the grip. We talked about filling the space with your second hand when you're shooting two-handed, and you see that my thumb runs forward up here, and that's not some parlor trick, that's not some internet Gucci, I saw it on YouTube thing, that's why I'm doing it. No, there's a purpose for that, and it's actually really important. So when I shoot this gun, and I'm going to do it like this, I'm right-handed. And this gun, when I pull the trigger, is going to tend, just by taking up the tension in the trigger, is going to tend to want to walk to the left, because I'm applying pressure with this hand and this thumb. You can't really go like this. Most people can't. It's difficult to go like this and not move any other muscles in your hand, because we're trying to push an 8-pound trigger, something like that. It's going to move the gun. The purpose of that thumb is to be forward of the place that is occurring, and you can see that by doing that, I've eliminated all movement in the gun while I try to pull the trigger. What we're doing with that thumb forward is counterbalancing the trigger squeeze in our firing sequence. We're counterbalancing it so that the gun does not move, because we imparted force on the trigger. Moving on with number 4, stance. Quick disclaimer, I am super anti-stance. And the reason I'm anti-stance, I don't do Weaver isosceles or any of that stuff. The reason I'm anti-stance is because I don't think it's a realistic situation, and I actually would say that stance as a topic is something that has been generated by the administration surrounding the shooting sports. What I mean by that is you show up to a range, they put you in a bay, they make you shoot in a uniform direction, and it's for safety and efficient running of the establishment, that you only shoot in one direction, you can't move anywhere. It just makes sense. However, if you watch any defensive shooting video or any kind of video that has any kind of violence in it whatsoever, you'll see that it is not a static environment. It is a dynamic environment. And if you are standing still in a dynamic environment, you're a target. You should be moving. And to that end, when it comes to new shooters, especially people who just picked up their first gun, I see a lot of this, where people are leaning back away from the gun. And this is an intuitive thing. A loud thing's about to happen. We know that a loud thing's about to happen, and we have a natural human reaction to get away from that loud thing. It's just the way we work. However, everybody can try this right now. Stand up, try it. When you lean back, you are loose. You're basically a bag of noodles right now. However, if you take one step or one half step forward and lean into the gun, you will see that you've now tightened all of the musculature above the waist. And you can think of that as a big bag of springs that gun can then recoil against, and that is going to make the gun run more efficiently, and you are going to absorb recoil much more efficiently if you just take a little bit more forward lean. So think of it as you should be leaning into the direction of fire instead of you need to be locked in a specific location, leaning forward with your feet this far apart or anything. That doesn't matter. You want to be leaning into the direction of fire, because that is going to help you more efficiently run the gun. Number 5. I dedicated an entire video to number 5. It's called something along the lines of should you flinch or something like that. I'll go find it. I'll have it linked in the description box down below. Probably an interactive card on screen somewhere as well. But number 5 is that you should not move the orientation of the gun after it's sighted before the bullet leaves the muzzle of the gun. And what I mean by that is it doesn't matter how amazingly you have aligned those sights. If you go to squeeze the round off, and in the process of squeezing the round off, you change the orientation of the gun, it doesn't matter. That bullet is not going where you thought it was going. So there are two things that we talk about when we talk about this particular thing, and that is recoil anticipation versus recoil management. So they look the same on the internet. So if I'm shooting, and the gun has a malfunction, you'll see me go like that. And everybody's like, ooh, that's a flinch. No, it's actually not what that is. That is me knowing that gun is going to go off, the gun breaks, and then while the gun is recoiling, I'm fighting the gun right back down to where it was so I can get a faster follow-up shot. What is wrong is I've sighted the gun, and I go to squeeze, and I, at the same time as pulling the trigger or before pulling the trigger, go like that. And what that is going to do is completely throw that shot off. I might as well have not even used the sights, because that bullet is not going anywhere near where I wanted it to go, because I changed the way the gun is pointing in three-dimensional space before the bullet was able to make it out of the barrel. Well, guys and gals, that about wraps up my top 5 tips for new shooters learning to more efficiently shoot their handguns. I hope that you found this video interesting and informative. If you did, sound off in the comment section down below. Like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends, that sort of thing. If you're new to the shooting sports community, we absolutely welcome you. We are very happy that you have taken a first step into being a more responsible American citizen, and if there's any way that I can help you learn more about the things that you're getting into, I will do my best to do so. Thank you for joining in on tonight's video, and hopefully we'll see you guys on a future one here at the VSO Gun Channel. I flinch, it looks like this. I missed by, I don't know, 5 feet. It's probably 30 yards, something like that. So if I do it again, even farther. Whereas if I don't do that, I get a solid center mass hit.